Dear class 10 children, today we'll start a new chapter, that is chapter number 11, where we find sense organs. Okay, sense organs. Recently we finished chapter number 10 where we discussed about nervous system. So here this also something which is related to nervous system itself. Okay, so with regard to that, here we have 5 sense organs. Okay, 5 sense organs, namely eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. But out of these 5 here in our syllabus, we find 2 sense organs. They are the human eye and the ears. Okay, these are the sense organs which we have there in our syllabus. Okay, so see, there are some terms which you have to know, which are given there in the book, also in the introductory portion of this chapter, such as receptors, which are discussed in chapter number 10 also. That's why I'm telling that this is connected to that chapter number 10, nervous system. Okay, so receptors, which we discussed there in chapter number 10 also. Receptors means such sensory cells or sensory cells which are found there in the sense organs, and the function of them is to receive the different kinds of stimuli. Okay, receptors, these are also given there in the introductory portion of this chapter, and other terms are given there which are related to the human eye. So today in this session we'll talk about the human eye. Okay, the human eye, which is there in our syllabus. As I was telling you, there are some terms given here in the introductory portion of this chapter related to the human eye, though they are not that important as per your syllabus. Let me tell you very quickly about them, what they are given there in the book. Okay, so as given there in the book is your orbit. You see, orbit is also given there. So orbit means sockets where your eyeball is situated, your eyeball is protected. Similarly, there is given your eyebrows. Eyebrows means this eyebrows. Okay, though this eyebrow doesn't have that much function there in the eye, okay, to make the vision, to make the image there in the eye, but it protects your eyes from different kinds of particles. That means particles and some other unwanted substances may not directly fall into the eyes, because these your eyebrows act as a roof. Okay, similarly, there you find your eyelids. Eyelids means these two, both sides there are 2 eyelids which protect the eyes inside. Then there is another term given there in the book, is that your tear gland. Okay, tear gland, which is also termed as lacrimal gland, which is also called lacrimal gland. Tear gland or lacrimal gland is also there. So tear gland is termed in better way as lacrimal gland, so which is responsible for secreting tears. Okay, and tears means out to wash out the different unwanted particles if they enter the eyes. Okay, in the meantime, sometimes there are, suppose, some sorrows, there are some pain, okay, some agonies, so they also we happen to release tears, we happen to shed tears, so that way we get relaxed also. After shedding some tears, we get relaxed. So these are some accessories, functions of these parts of the eyes, which are not that important as far as your syllabus is concerned. Okay, so now we'll talk about the structure of the eye. Okay, or the structure of the eyeball. What is that? The structure of the eyeball. So this is the structure of the eye, which is already drawn out here, and this is the horizontal section of the eye. Okay, horizontal section of the eye. All right, so let us begin now. See, the outermost, as I have already drawn out here, the outermost thin membrane of the eye is conjunctiva. Okay, the outermost thin membrane is there, covering the entire frontal part of the eye, is conjunctiva. conjunctiva, conjunctiva. Okay, and which extends to the inner lining of the eyelid. Okay, this is the eyelid. It goes up to the inner lining of this eyelid also. Okay, sometimes what happens is that this conjunctiva turns to reddish. Okay, it turns to red in color because of viral infection. So that infection is called conjunctivitis. We are very much known to this word. Okay, we are very much acquainted with this term called conjunctivitis. So is an infection of this conjunctiva due to the virus. So this is called conjunctivitis. All right, and then here if you see the wall of the this your eyeball, okay, the wall of the eyeball, if you see consists of three concentric layers. Three concentric layers are there. Okay, three concentric layers are there. Okay, the which three concentric layers there you find where they are, you see, sclerotic layer. Okay, the outermost layer that you find in the wall of this eyeball is your sclerotic layer. Okay, sclerotic layer, which is also called sclera. That's also called sclera. Okay, as it is drawn here. Okay, sclerotic layer that goes up to here, you see, sclera. It is also called sclera. Then second middle layer is there. Second middle layer is there, which goes up to here. It is very nicely shown here, called choroid layer. Choroid layer. All right. Then the third one, the very important layer of the eye is your retina. The innermost layer of the eyeball is your retina. So what? Retina. So these are the three concentric layers that you find here in the eyeball. The wall of eyeball you see being consisted of these three concentric layers. The outermost one is a sclerotic layer, or is also called sclera. Then second middle layer is your choroid layer, and third one is your retina. So these are the three layers of this eyeball here. So now first we'll talk about this sclerotic layer or sclera, which is shown here in this diagram. See, the outer layer, okay, just beneath here, if you see here, the frontal part being covered by a thin membrane called conjunctiva. Just below that, through this conjunctiva also, the other part can be seen, which is called sclerotic layer or sclera. Okay, the outer layer called sclera. Okay, and this sclera is white in color. The white part of your eye, okay, is your sclera. Is what is sclera. And in the frontal part of this eye, this sclera you see covering the colored part of the eye called cornea. Here is your cornea. The colored part of the eye you see being covered by the sclera in the frontal part of the eye. Okay, so this sclera, the colored part of the eye. So this cornea sometimes becomes opaque. It becomes white in color and becomes functionless. Okay, it cannot perform the functions. So that time the problem will be there. And in order to check this problem, in order to cure this problem, the option is to replace it. It has to be replaced. This cornea has to be replaced by a donated cornea. That means donated cornea means, you see, usually this cornea, okay, remains alive about 40 hours after the death of a person. When a person dies, after that, 40 hours after the death of the person, that your cornea remains alive. So after 4 hours of the death of the person, the eye can be removed. The eye of the person who has promised to donate it, who has already agreed to donate it. Okay, so after 4 hours of the death of that person, the eye will be removed and preserved there in the eye bank. Okay, there in an eye bank, it is preserved in blood plasma, or some other sterile, liquid medium at very low temperature. All right, then afterwards, whenever the replacement has to be done at the time, the cornea is removed and the replacement is done. So this is how you see that your cornea you see being replaced when it is damaged or functionless, when it is not functioning. That time this is how it is replaced. So it is just below the sclera in the frontal part of the eye. Okay, so and as I've told you that sclera is white in color. All right. So next middle layer is choroid layer. Okay, choroid layer. CHOROID, choroid layer. So choroid layer, as you see here in the diagram also. Okay, the second layer, the second middle layer is your choroid layer, and this choroid layer is richly supplied with blood vessels. All right, and contains a black pigment called melanin. Okay, it contains a pigment called melanin. Okay, melanin, 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 and this melanin prevents the reflection and scattering of light in the eyes. All right, then you see this choroid layer. Okay, this choroid layer you see being extended here in the frontal, extended to the frontal region of the eye also, in the form of ciliary muscles or ciliary body. Okay, from both sides you see. Okay, ciliary body. All right, and the muscles called the ciliary muscle, okay, alters the shape of the lens. Okay, alters the shape of the lens as per the need. Okay, as per the need. That means when we see the objects of different distances, so that time you see the shape of this lens keep changing. Okay, under the regulation of this ciliary muscle. All right, and how it is we'll discuss afterwards when we go through the image formation, that particular portion at the time we'll talk about how it happens. All right, then this ciliary muscle also contains a kind of ligament out here, which is called suspensory ligament. From both sides, this suspensory ligament, which you see here, holds this lens in position. Okay, then the other part of your choroid layer you see also in the form of iris. That means you see this choroid layer also in the form of iris, which is here in front, which partially covers the lens, leaving the round centrally located aperture called pupil here untouched. Okay, there is the small pupil, round aperture there in the center called pupil. Okay, which is in between these two parts of the choroid, in between these two ends of this choroid layer called iris. Okay, and this iris, you see the different colors of eye, like you see the brown, black, okay, dark. So this color of the eye actually the color of the iris. Okay, the color which you see there in the eye, like brown, dark, black, is actually the color of the iris here. Okay, and as I was telling you, there in the center of these two ends of this iris, there is a round aperture called pupil. Okay, pupil. So pupil is a word derived from the Latin word called pupa. Pupa, which means doll. Okay, and here this pupil means, or here in this context, this doll means the image of oneself, okay, reflected when looking at the other's eyes. Okay, when you stand in front of other and you see the eyes of others, so that time your image will be reflected there. Okay, so this doll refers to that, in fact. Okay, and this part is called pupil here in front, and this pupil is also, sometimes dilated and constricted, okay, under the control of the muscles present in iris, which means this iris contains two types of muscles. Okay, iris contains two types of muscles. They are radial muscle, okay, radial muscle, and the other one is a circular muscle. Circular muscle. So this iris contains two different types of muscles. They are radial muscles and circular muscles. So this radial muscle, okay, this radial muscle widens the, pupil, okay, widens the pupil. That means your pupil, when you are in the dim light or in the dark region, so that time your pupil has to be dilated, or your pupil dilates so that the larger amount of light is entered, okay, into the eyes through this pupil. So this dilation of the pupil takes place under the control of, or under the regulation of, this radial muscle. All right, similarly there is another muscle called circular muscle, which actually constricts this pupil when we are in the bright light. When we are in the bright light, so that time the circular muscle constricts this pupil so that the required amount of light only is entered into the eyes through this pupil. So from this, what we have understood is that the function of pupil here is to allow the required amount of light to enter into the eyes, okay, so that the image is formed there inside, or so the correct vision is formed there inside, or the correct image is formed inside. Okay, so this is the main function of this pupil. That means it allows the required amount of light to enter through it into the eyes. Okay, then this iris, okay, the pattern and the arrangement of the iris, varies from person to persons. There are billions of people, but this pattern and arrangement of iris do not match. So that's the reason why this iris also the source of identification of the human beings. Okay, so this is all about your what you call your iris, which is the frontal part of your second layer of the eye called choroid. Now the third innermost layer of the eye is retina. Okay, retina. So this, as you see here, this is all retina shown out here, and this retina is sensitive to light. All right, and this their own retina itself, actually the image is formed. All right, and this retina contains two types of sensory cells. Okay, it contains two types of sensory cells. They are rod cells. Okay, the other one is your cone cells. All right, rod cells and cone cells. Rod cells and cone cells. So these rod cells are sensitive to dim light, okay, dark light. All right, and contains a kind of pigment called rhodopsin. Rhodopsin. All right, RHODOPSIN, rhodopsin. All right, as I've told you, this is sensitive to dim light. All right, and these rod cells are scattered throughout the retina. Okay, so throughout the retina you find these rod cells being present. Okay, the other one is your cone cells. Cone cells are sensitive to bright light. Okay, cone cells are sensitive to bright light and contains a pigment called iodopsin. Iodopsin here. Okay, iodopsin is a pigment you find being contained by cone cells, and these cone cells, unlike the rod cells, you find cone cells being mostly present here in this region. Okay, mostly present in this region. In this region means the region called yellow spot or fovea centralis. Okay, which is at the back of the, which is at the back of the what do you call your lens. Okay, or almost at the center on the horizontal edges of the eyeball. Okay, it is present here. Okay, so this place where this cone cells you find mostly present called yellow spot or fovea centralis, since it contains cone cells out here which are sensitive to the bright light. Here the vision is formed, the best vision is formed. That's why this yellow spot is also called the place for the best vision. Okay, because here you find the maximum cone cells being present which are sensitive to bright light, so that it is also called the place for the best vision. Okay, and as you go down there, you see little bit down, the another place is there which is called blind spot. It's called blind spot. Why it is called blind spot is that it contains no any sensory cells. No any sensory cells. Neither there are rod cells nor there are cone cells. No any sensory cells out here. Alright. Rather here what happens is that your nerve fibers of the different sensory cells get bundled together out here, and make a small place where no any sensory cells are there. That's why no image is formed. No image is formed. So that this is called blind spot. So question might come, why is this called blind spot? This is called blind spot because no any image is formed, because there is no any sensory cells present out here. Okay, so that way here you find two spots out here, yellow spot and blind spot. Okay, and as I was telling you that this is the place where the best vision is formed, or as a whole, if I have to tell you that the image is formed there on retina, but the image formed on retina is inverted and your real. Okay, inverted and real, and that the impulse of that image which is inverted and real will be collected by this optic nerve and taken to the cerebrum of the brain where the actual image is formed. Okay, so this is how you see the third important and enormous layer called retina functions. Okay, now we'll see the another part of the eye. Here is lens. Okay, what is that? The lens. All right, lens you find just behind the pupil. Okay, pupil, which I have already discussed. Just behind that there is a part called lens. Okay, and this lens is held in position by the suspensory ligament. Okay, suspensory ligament originated from this circular ciliary muscle. Okay, that means your suspensory ligament is a part of your ciliary muscle, alright, which holds this lens in position. Alright, and this lens now keep changing its shape. Okay, it keeps changing its shape under the regulation of this ciliary muscle itself. Okay, that means your ciliary muscle, which you see here, sometimes contracts and relax. Okay, contracts and relaxes in order to change the shape of this lens, so that we can see the objects at different distances. Okay, so that's why this your lens keeps changing its shape under the regulation of this ciliary muscles, so that we can see the objects at different distances. It has to change, it has to alter its shape. Okay, for altering the shape, this ciliary muscles regulates, this ciliary muscle control it. Okay, and this is your lens. Then we see now the chambers of the eye. Okay, there are two chambers of the eye. Okay, two chambers of eye. There are two chambers of eye or eyeball. You see here, that is aqueous chamber. Okay, aqueous, aqueous, aqueous chamber and vitreous chamber. Okay, there are two chambers, that is aqueous chamber and vitreous chamber. Let's talk about aqueous chamber first. So aqueous chamber is the chamber between the cornea. Okay, this is the cornea and the lens. Okay, the chamber between the cornea and the lens is called aqueous chamber, which is filled with watery liquid called aqueous humor. Called what? Aqueous humor. Okay, and the function of this aqueous humor is to keep this lens moist, and also it protects from different shock. Okay, it protects the lens from shock also. Okay, first one, it protects the lens from the shock, and it also keeps the lens moist. Beside this, your aqueous humor also, or aqueous chamber also refracts light. It also refracts light. Okay, so that is your aqueous humor. The liquid which fills that aqueous chamber. The other chamber of the eye is vitreous chamber. Okay, vitreous chamber, which is the larger cavity of the eyeball located behind the lens. Okay, located behind the lens. All right, and it is filled with the transparent, thicker liquid substance called vitreous humor. Okay, and its function is to keep the shape of the eyeball. Okay, it helps in keeping the shape of the eyeball. All right, second, it also protects the retina here. It also protects the retina and the nerve endings. Okay, so these are the different parts of the eye as shown here in the diagram. Okay, and their structure, their functions are all discussed here in this session. Okay, so please refer to the book also, and draw the diagram and go through every word shown there in the diagram. All right, so today we'll do only this much. Thank you very much.